Kailash is a 32-unit eco-village in Portland, Oregon. Could projects like this make cities sustainable enough, fast enough to heal the world? The stakes are high, but not to worry. As a permaculture urbanist and Ecovillage co-founder, I've got you covered. In today's episode, we'll visit Kailash's website, as well as stills from 3 really great video tours that I've linked in the description below. And of course, I'll show how Kailash fits into the Edenicity upgrade path for cities. As a special bonus, I'll show how projects like Kailash can exponentially speed cities toward full sustainability. Welcome to Edenicity. Best practices for sustainably abundant cities. If you're new to the channel, you can download the Edenicity reference design from the link below. Edenicity merges urbanism with permaculture, an ecological lifestyle design system with over 1 million certified practitioners worldwide. Edenicity upgrades cities from sprawl to high-amenity garden living with excellent public transit. By growing their own food in layered gardens, Edenic cities would unburden large landscapes to restore the lost half of life on Earth. Let's see how Kailash fits with this picture. It has sheltered bike parking with a built-in bike repair stand and shared electric cargo bikes, rainwater harvesting, tranquil gardens, electric car sharing, a community room and media center with attached kitchenette, and this door opens up to a meditation center and guest room for visitors. They also have multiple composting systems, including some that handle human waste. The site now includes the original building with 32 apartments, as well as a 3-bedroom detached house, which has been upgraded to passive house insulation standards, and a 192 square foot tiny house. Kailash is urban, and most of its residents live in a single building. That's refreshing. Most of the eco-villages that I visited were rural. People just bought cheap land and bulldozed forest to build detached houses. In permaculture, we call that a type 1 error. Clearing forest for housing destroys wild habitat at a time when we've already wiped out more than half the world's living biomass. Over time, as eco-villagers commute into town for work and haul their children to and from school, sports, and other activities, they put in more and more car miles. That's how, despite their best intentions, eco-villages can become energy-hogging, environment-destroying, gravel road suburbs. So way to go, Kailash. By starting in the city, you dodged the biggest error. By tearing up a parking lot and installing gardens, you found a very pleasant way to help bring Earth back to life. The 0.8 hectares or 2 acres of Kailash, divided by 55 residents, works out to 150 square meters or 1,500 square feet per person. About twice as much as the Bronx or an Edenicity block. Edenicity as a whole, with all 4 agricultural zones, has 280 square meters or 2,800 square feet per person, so Kailash is really well scaled for Edenicity. The 2-story main building in Kailash is about the size I imagine for most Edenicity buildings. New Edenicity construction might add an additional residential floor and somewhat expand the ground floor common areas. I'd also love to see a big rooftop garden. That would stack functions such as shelter, insulation, rainwater catchment, and food growing, which is a core principle of permaculture. Adding layers of life vertically is also a core principle of Edenicity. But the Kailash apartment structure may not be strong enough to support all the load. Rooftop gardens could go in, along with additional ground floor amenities such as a gym, makerspace, larger dining facilities, and co-working areas when the building eventually gets renovated or replaced many years from now. I'm less keen on the tiny house and detached house. Apartments are inherently more energy efficient than standalone houses or tiny houses. Most apartments have just 1 or 2 outer surfaces exposed to the weather, compared to all 4 walls and the roof in a detached house. That means the apartments use much less material and energy per square meter to construct, heat, and cool. Kailash is retrofitting the apartments with thicker insulation. Once that's done, if they install air source heat pumps, which are 4 times more efficient than furnaces, Kailash may be able to power itself completely with just the solar panels they have on the roof of the apartment building. Anyway, they plan to turn the remaining parking lot areas into a greenhouse with more solar panels, so they can become energy self-sufficient. Portland has wet winters and relatively dry summers, so Kailash harvests rainwater from building roofs and their parking lot. They have a first flush diverter and roof washer on the north side of the roof. These protect the mechanics of the kinetic water sculpture. The diverter is this hollow pipe that you see here. It captures the rain from the first 10 gallons or few dozen liters, which contain a lot of particulates from the roof. I actually found diverters kind of a pain to manage on a solo homestead in southeast Ohio. Sometimes in cold weather you have to disconnect them, or they can form an ice plug and burst. Grit can get in the valves and the threads. I'd actually avoid relying on these if at all possible. The water flows through rain gardens to filter out any remaining pollutants. Then it floods the swales in the gardens, soaking into the soil, irrigating the plants and recharging the aquifer below. The shallow aquifer acts like a huge natural underground water tank. The village taps into it with a well pump for irrigation in the summer. This is long-term storage, and most years they harvest more from rainfall than they use in the garden. I like the layering of the garden. The fruit trees with kale ground cover, the wire trellis over the pathways. This is especially great when you consider that Kailash depaved dead asphalt to create more layered garden space. Did you know it's possible to recycle asphalt? In fact, according to the National Asphalt Pavement Association, asphalt is the most recycled material in America, some 82.2 million tons per year versus 58.5 million tons of all other recyclables combined. To build soil on that bare ground, the village brought in chipped wood mulch. Even small cities have tons of the stuff to give away, and it's great for garden paths where the lower layers rot into rich, fertile black soil. When combined in bins, with food scraps, yard waste, water, and a secret ingredient I'll come back to in a moment, the wood chips break down rapidly into garden compost. Kailash also has a permitted Humanure compost facility. That's right, they recover the nutrients from human poop by turning it into soil. Closing the resource loops like this may sound gross, but it's an ecological necessity in the long run. Humanure composting is completely safe for homesteads, but at neighborhood scale, there's more opportunity to leach harmful pathogens into the groundwater. For that reason, the compost area has a concrete floor that drains to the city sewer, just in case. The finished compost from this setup would probably be safe for garden crops, but in fact they use it for the tree crops and ornamentals. As of a few years ago, about a third of the apartments had composting toilets, and more are planned for the rest of the village. The toilets are vented with fans, so there's no bad odors like there are in most restrooms. Residents are encouraged to store their urine separately. This is the secret ingredient for regular compost. Urine adds nitrogen to the carbon-rich wood chips and garden waste in the compost bins. The nitrogen feeds thermophilic bacteria. These make the pile hot enough to kill weed seeds, pests, and harmful microbes. This creates amazingly rich soil in record time. Plants in a healthier soil are healthier themselves, so they don't attract the garden detritivores that we think of as pests. Compost retains water and nutrients, so the plants need far less irrigation and few, if any, garden amendments. The urine is sterilized per World Health Organization protocol by collecting it in large containers and aging it a few months. While this is actually clean, I do have some concerns about scaling this up in a city. Managing urine in 1.5-liter bottles through 4 seasons and any weather is rough. Hauling buckets of Humanure mixed with wood shavings to an outdoor composting facility, rain or shine, in sickness and health, is also no joke. I've been there, done that for years with composting toilets in tiny houses. There are unique cleaning problems. As urine ages, struvite crystals form. I think you can see some of them just next to the hand right above. And these crystals can foul bottles, cisterns, pumps, and pipes. It does look like the residents are solving these problems, and I hope they keep sharing their solutions and formulas so the rest of us can benefit. I'm actually amazed that Portland lets residents apply urine directly to their personal garden beds. Yes, that's actually safe according to World Health Organization guidelines, but most homeowners associations and municipalities don't see it that way. And as shown in a different scene from this Kristen Dirksen video, Kailash also applies gray water from this outdoor solar-heated shower. You can see the heating coil in the lower left, directly to beds of kale that one of its members sells at farmers market. In most places I've lived, even outside of city limits, those are huge health code violations. For sanitary reasons, gray water is usually treated in cascading gravel wicking beds, or, like aged Humanure, applied directly to tree and ornamental crops. The clippings from these can then be shredded and run through a hot compost. Once that compost is aged, it's safe for garden beds. A one-bedroom Kailash apartment rents for about $1,000 a month, about 30% below market rate. A room in the shared house goes for about half that, and 2-bedroom apartments are sometimes available as well. Qualifying incomes come to about $2,500 a month for the one-bedroom and $1,300 a month for a room in the shared house. These are 17% below the usual income to rent formulas because you can live in Kailash without a car. It's close to several bus lines and very bike-friendly. Kailash is strictly non-smoking and vegan, so they don't allow cats and dogs. It requires its residents to recycle, attend 4 village meetings or community events per year, and spend an hour a month helping with community maintenance. These are very modest requirements. For example, many co-ops require more than 20 hours of labor per month per resident. plus weekly meetings, but Kailash's 1 hour a month is clearly sufficient to build strong community. Their governance process is simple and stable. I'd say that Kailash is off to a great start. How fast can something like this transform a city? I'd love to see Kailash franchise, though that's rare for ecovillages. There is such hunger for this. For example, in the Kirsten Dirksen video 3 years ago, Kailash had a wait list of over 200 people. So it really does seem bankable. If the owner set aside 10% of the rent from the beginning, they could buy new properties and double every 10 years. That could create 8 urban ecovillages housing over 400 people by the 2050s. At that rate, they could convert the whole city into ecovillages by 2160. Yes, 135 years from now, but much faster growth is possible. I found 3 Portland ecovillages in the Foundation for International Community database. If every ecovillage older than a decade mentored 1 new project per year, there could be enough ecovillages for the entire population of Portland by the 2060s. A massive groundswell of ecovillages would embolden Portland's already green and urbanist city planning. More and more they could depave their car infrastructure and expand water, transit, bicycle, farm, and forest corridors within the city. It could happen even faster if large developers run with this concept for neighborhood-scale projects. In a previous episode, I showed how green neighborhoods fetch a premium. If your developer friends have any questions about that, send them my way. What if you wanted to build something like Kailash in another city? In most places, you'll run into a lot of resistance from authorities and neighbors. Fortunately, you don't have to start from scratch. Kailash exists as a proof of concept for a multifamily urban ecovillage, and they clearly make excellent neighbors. They documented a lot of what they did and posted it online. They found research and organizational partners to power through every objection in the permitting process and win every necessary approval. I know this channel focuses a lot on top-down planning, but planning departments often lack political support for green development. This leaves them passive and backward-looking, but a leadership vacuum opens the door for projects like Kailash to begin Edenizing a city. Just find advocates where you can, neighbors, officials, partner organizations, and engage the planning process. Since you're still here, if you know any green-minded planners or developers, send them this video. I'm always happy to discuss project ideas. Thanks as always to the wonderful patrons for supporting this work. Take care, stay green, see you next time.